you and I had obviously worked together for some time before I came aboard here. And so you had known for some time that I had and have a very niche skill set that I was trying to translate into, whatever would be a fit for me. How do you
Sure.
guys work with clients and place people who have those niche skill sets and kind
Sure.
of help them unpigeonhole themselves, for lack of a better phrase?
Exactly. So we do the transferable skills there. So, if you have somebody like yourself, Matt, or I'm going to use you for example, we're trying to show them what your transferable skills are there, even though you didn't have that specific title that somebody might be looking for, or skill sets. Those skills can transfer over into this, and how that would transfer and fit into that position. So kind of having those conversations a little more, diving a little deeper into the client, um, of the skill sets that you have and how that would translate into this position.
Karen, I lost you a little bit at the end there. I'm sorry. Could you repeat that last part?
Oh, that's okay. So yes, we work with the client and kind of talk to them about your skills that you have and how that transferable skill would benefit this position, or how that would work. So kind of just diving in a little deeper, and knowing the candidate a little more, as to what they can provide to the next client, is helpful. So, we're meeting with every client, with every associate, and sitting down with them and talking to them a little more, and in diving in a little deeper into what they've done with their last jobs, and, what they can bring to the table for the next client. So we do have, associates that come in that might be looking for a career change. So kind of diving into there, what that looks like and what those skills that they currently have might be able to translate into another position.
Um, what was I had a follow-up question to that. Um, what is the percentage of clients, if you have this figure readily available, that end up sticking and become permanent at the places that contract them or bring them aboard temporarily or what have you?
That is a great question. That is a really good question. I wish I had statistics on that. But I would like to say, I mean, I don't even know if I can put a number on that. I mean, we see it often,
Yeah.
very often. Um, Danielle, do you? I don't even think we have a number for that, but I would like to say that it's pretty high. They get, it just depends on the position. But I mean, for let's say evaluation hire to direct hire, I think it
Mhm.
is pretty high there. Um, as far as temporary goes, we've also seen, somebody come in and do a temporary position or a contracted position, and the client decides that, this person is a great fit, and then winds up, either direct hiring them. More than not is usually the evaluation hire. They take them through and then they hire them on. So any contract or temporary position has turned into also a long-term opportunity for somebody.
Yeah. I'm glad you talked about exit interviews because like, to me, and I'm speaking just as a working stiff. I'm not in. My mother was in HR, but I'm not in HR or anything like that. I honestly, I could count on one hand the number of times I've had an exit interview at any employer of any kind.
Yeah.
Why are these becoming such a lost art?
Absolutely. Yeah, it kind of shines a little light here on, and sometimes it's eye opening. You don't realize it, as a supervisor or a manager, until those are being done. And then you got to take a look at, the inside. So definitely helpful, a little food for thought there
Yeah.
for sure.
The only other thing I'd written down was you had mentioned an equation of some sort, just like a general equation for calculating
Yes.
how much it costs to replace people. Can you review that?
Yes. So that there is the calculator, which I apologize, I completely skipped that, and I thought that was really important. So for as far as the turnover rate goes, it's the number of employees versus sorry, you're going to divide the number of employees who leave each year by the average number of employees on your payroll.
Hmm.
And then you're going to multiply that by 100.
Hmm.
So that's going to kind of, show you what that number looks like in calculating that true cost of the turnover.
And that the number that you come up with, that's a dollars and cents value, that's a percentage value. Can you clarify that?
Yes, that is, I think that's going to be more of a percentage value there, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken. I'm so sorry. No, that is going to be the cost of it. I'm so sorry. That's going to be your true cost of what
Okay.
it is to, um, what that turnover looks like.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Sorry.
It's
I can add there
Thank you,
too,
Danielle.
Matt, that typically the turnover cost for a company, for an employee, whether that is a termination or a voluntary or a resignation, is typically 150% of that individual's salary.
wow.
It doesn't seem that high, when you're in the thick of it. And I can, kind of go back to your point about exit interviews and why is that such a lost art in a business owner's mind. And I'll be honest with you, I think it's fear of what's going to be said a lot of the time. I think that it's as a business owner, it's hard to look at yourself and look at, kind of what you've
Yeah.
created and really open the door for someone to say what they don't like about it. Um,
That's it's. I don't think you're Danielle. I don't think you're wrong. First of all, and second of all, it's interesting that you would make that point about fear because I think Karen had talked about soliciting employee satisfaction surveys. I can remember getting one of those at the last company I worked for on a full-time basis, and knowing the climate and the culture of that company at the time, I can remember thinking like, okay, well, they say they want our feedback and they say it's going to be anonymous, but I'm not sure I totally buy that. Like, I
sure.
think, yeah, no, but I think fear is absolutely a thing, and I think it's a two-way street.
Yeah, oh yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's especially if, if you have a lot of times what we see with the amount of candidates that we're talking to and the amount of businesses that we have people in, I think a lot of what we are hearing if an associate is unhappy, a lot of it unfortunately is mainly personnel. We try to do our best to give somebody the best snapshot of, hey, you're going to be lifting X amount of pounds, you're going to be doing this
Yeah,
amount of spreadsheets. We try to prepare them for that. So most of the time, it isn't really, hey, I went in and I can't do this. It's just, hey, I went in and I don't jive with this person and I just can't see myself there long term. So I think you're exactly spot on that it's a two-way street. If there isn't trust there and trust isn't a large piece of the company culture, you almost lose your opportunity to even do a satisfaction survey if everyone's going to tell you what you
right.
want. That doesn't really help on either side, I think. So that's spot on.
Yeah. And I'm fortunate to have ended up in a place where I'll be quite frank and quite open. Denise encourages us to speak freely and speak openly and collaborate together, partially because we're such a small staff here, but also because she wants to be um, the antithesis of some of the problems that you two have described today. And in fact, we were last Friday, I think a bunch of us were all talking about just how expensive it can be to replace people that get pushed out for one reason or another. And I remember, during in the course of this conversation, Denise being genuinely surprised that there are so many companies out there that, will bring these people on full time, keep them around to accomplish, this very siloed goal for a couple years, and then we'll broom them without even thinking about how much that's going to cost us, in the scheme of things. And yeah, like I remember her being very shocked that, you know, some of us are very accustomed to encountering that at multiple junctures of our careers.
Yeah. Well, and I'll share this too, to speak to that point. I had one of my best placements that I can say in 10 years in here is
Yeah,
a driver down for a paper company on the north side, and he was on express payroll for almost 6 years. He was on express
really.
payroll just because it worked out well for both sides. He
Yeah,
he really liked getting paid weekly, and he was happy being an express employee, and the company was happy, not having to offer the benefits, not having to, do the things that for your internal employees you need to do. So it worked out well, really for all sides for someone to be a truly long-term contract
yeah,
position, and that could have gone on for years. So I think there's a lot of flexibility and a lot of options out there in the market, to avoid exactly what you were just saying. What, hire someone on for a year to do a project, and then you're not only having to terminate somebody, but you're also looking at potential unemployment costs. It can get very expensive.
yeah. Oh, speaking of benefits, this is for the benefit of all our guests. My understanding is that you guys do offer your own benefits of some sort to those who are so inclined. Is that correct?
Yes, we do. We do offer benefits. We offer dental, medical, vision, term life, and short-term disability.
There you
Um,
go.
a little bit of supplement there before they're hired on. Even as a temporary and contract employee, they can still sign up for those benefits.
Is that common in staffing agencies, or do you guys consider yourselves pioneers in that respect?
That is a good question. I don't know if many others. Danielle, can you help me on this or assist me with that?
Yeah, no, it is. I would say more common than not, only because,
Hmm.
out on the marketplace, obviously there's some really expensive options. Um, Unique to more of the truly temporary providers out there, the cost of that is very high because, you're talking daily, potentially daily paychecks. So the
Right.
maintenance of that can kind of get a little cumbersome. Um, I wouldn't say we're the only ones, but I would say we have more associates, more interviews that come in than not that are choosing to take the coverage.